I flew 13 hours to surprise my mom for Thanksgiving after paying off her $58,000 mortgage. She called security and said, "Surprises are for people who belong." I left without a word. That night, I hit one button and their world fell apart. "Surprises are for folks who actually belong here," she said, giving me a look like I was some random stranger. Not like I was her kid, the same kid who used to mow lawns in the blazing heat just to help pay the bills. Not the guy who blew through his savings to pay off her mortgage so she could kick back and retire early. Nope, now I was just a nuisance to her. And that's when she called security on me. I hadn't seen my mom in over 2 years because work was crazy. Long hours, traveling all over, trying to get my startup off the ground. But I never stopped helping out, paying rent, covering repairs, and even paying off her house last spring without saying a word. I thought she'd see it as the ultimate gift: freedom, security, peace. But nope, the phone stayed silent. No, thank you, no how's it going? Not even a text. I figured she must be busy or something. So, with Thanksgiving coming up and some time off, I decided to surprise her and booked a flight from Zurich. After 13 long hours of travel, layovers, and delays, I showed up with a bouquet of her favorite yellow roses and a pumpkin pie from her favorite bakery. As I rolled up in the taxi, I felt like a kid again, nervous but hopeful. I climbed those steps, rang the bell, flowers in hand, heart pounding. She opened the door, and there she was, just like I remembered, hair in a perfect bun, glasses slipping down her nose, cardigan wrapped tight. But her face didn't light up. Instead, it hardened. "What are you doing here?" she asked, with a voice like ice. "Surprising you," I said, trying to smile. After all, it was Thanksgiving. Then I heard it, laughter from inside. Family was all there, my brother, sister, their spouses, kids. A whole get-together that I hadn't made the guest list for. "I flew across the world to see you," I said, trying not to choke up. "You should have called," she replied coldly. "I wanted to surprise you," I explained. But she stepped outside and closed the door behind her, saying, "Surprises are for people who belong." I just stood there, stunned, as she waved down a security dude to shoo me away. "He's not welcome," she told him. I didn't yell or make a scene. I just nodded and left. Walked back down the street with my suitcase, pie in one hand, roses in the other. I didn't look back or say a word. But later, alone in my hotel room, I decided on something they never saw coming. This didn't start at Thanksgiving. Nope, it started way earlier. I just didn't want to see it. When Dad died 5 years ago, everything shifted. Not in a big way, but slowly, like a leaky faucet you only notice when the floor's already flooded. Back then, I dropped everything to support Mom. She was devastated, crying every night, practically bedridden. I flew back home, took unpaid leave, paid off bills, handled the funeral, everything. I didn't ask for anything in return. I was the good son, the one holding everything together. And for a while, it seemed like it mattered. She called me her rock. My siblings, Rachel and Ben, were mostly MIA. Ben was busy posting tributes on Facebook while I cleared out Dad's garage. Rachel sobbed dramatically at the funeral, then bailed early for a yoga retreat she couldn't miss. But I told myself, it's grief. People act weird. Give them a break. Then the requests started coming. Little things at first: water bills, Rachel's car repairs, Ben's startup issues. I kept saying yes, thinking that's what family does, right? I didn't see it back then, but they weren't just leaning on me, they'd turned me into their personal ATM. 2 years ago, I paid off Rachel's credit card debt. It was $9,000. She cried, told me I saved her. A month later, she was posting Instagram shots from a fancy Airbnb with captions about manifesting luxury. Then Ben needed a small $5,000 for a digital art gallery. NFTs are the future, he claimed. Never saw that money or the gallery. And Mom, she played the innocent, clueless one, always sweet and helpless. But she was the mastermind, forwarding me Rachel's Venmo requests with sad emojis, conveniently forgetting to tell me she'd signed my name on Ben's third loan until the debt collectors started calling me in Switzerland. I confronted her once. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Didn't want to stress you," she said. "You're always the strong one." I almost bought it, but then, 3 months before Thanksgiving, I got a call from the bank. "Congratulations," they said. "Your mortgage payment cleared. Zero balance now." I was like, "What mortgage?" Turns out, it was my mom's house I'd set up payments for a year ago when she got all teary about overdue bills. I was paying $4,800 a month without even knowing it. So, I kind of went ahead and secretly paid off my mom's mortgage, which was a whopping $58,000. I figured when she found out, she'd be over the moon and shed some happy tears. But nope, no call from her, not even a peep. Instead, Rachel texts me a couple of days later saying, "Hey, Mom mentioned the house is all paid off. So, you've got some extra cash now, right? Ben needs some help covering his rent in LA, ouch." Not even a thank you. That's when something quietly snapped inside me. I realized I wasn't really family to them, I was more like a walking ATM. I stopped replying to their messages, but they kept on coming. Ben actually emailed me a Google Doc titled Family Support Spreadsheet. He had laid out how much money I should be chipping in for the next few months, like I was some kind of financial advisor for their lives. Rachel sent me screenshots of flights to Paris, asking if I could hook her up with some travel miles. Mom forwarded me a quote for a new $22,000 kitchen, saying, "You always said you wanted me to live comfortably." Not a single one of them asked how I was doing. They had no clue I was battling insomnia, hadn't gone on vacation in 3 years, and that my company was struggling so much that I wasn't even taking a salary to keep my team employed. They didn't ask because they didn't care. The only time Mom called that month was to say my payment didn't go through on her Amazon account. She didn't even say hi, just complained that my card must have expired. That's when I started cooking up a surprise. I thought maybe showing up in person would shake things up a bit, remind her I'm not just dollar signs on a screen, but her son. So, I didn't tell anyone. I just booked a flight, bought some flowers and a pie, and rented an Airbnb nearby. But when I showed up, all Mom said was, "Surprises are for people who belong." Then she went and called security on me. That night, back in my Airbnb, I was just shaking with anger. I felt this pressure in my chest, like I was going to explode. I paced around until I finally pulled out my phone and hit post. I didn't just tweet something petty, I spilled everything. I blurred names and shared receipts, screenshots, the spreadsheet, and emails. It was a 5-hour writing session, and I didn't care about the consequences. By the morning, it had gone viral, 50,000 likes. People called me a hero, and others started sharing their own tales of toxic family drama. Therapists were quoting my thread, and even a celebrity chimed in, retweeting it with a note that said families don't get to exploit you just because you're related. Meanwhile, Rachel texted me, "Are you insane? Take that down." Ben sent a flurry of messages, saying how I was ruining Mom's reputation. Finally, Mom called. I ignored her for 3 days. The messages turned from angry to desperate. "You've humiliated the family. Delete that post or never come back here again." Honestly, I wasn't planning on it anyway. On the 4th day, Mom sent me a voice message. Her tone was honey sweet, but sharp enough to cut. "Honey, I'm trying to be the adult here. You've made your point, now it's time to fix this. Rachel's job is at risk, Ben's landlord is asking questions, and the people I go to church with are talking." Eventually, I called her. She picked up right away. "Oh, now you're ready to talk." I just said, "I'm coming over. Be there in 30. She hesitated. "Wait, what do you mean coming over?" I said, "Unlock the door," and hung up. Walking up to that same porch, it didn't feel like home anymore, more like a battlefield. Ben's car was there, Rachel's SUV too. Perfect, I wanted them all there. Mom opened the door, face all tight with crossed arms. Rachel was on the stairs glaring at me, and Ben was in the kitchen looking like he was ready for a courtroom battle. "Finally ready to apologize?" Rachel sneered. "Sit down," I said. No one moved, so I said it again, "Sit down." They did. I pulled out a folder with old school printed screenshots, payment records, bank transfers, and invoices, all of it. Tossing it on the table, I said, "This is every dollar I've given this family in the last 6 years." Mom glanced at it and looked away. "You think I made you look bad online? I've been cleaning up for you all this time. I've been cleaning up after everyone for years without a peep, even while you all were making fun of me behind my back. You know what's really embarrassing? It took me going viral for you guys to finally see how messed up this situation had become." Vince scoffed like it was no big deal. "You act like we forced you," he said. "You offered to help." "Nope," I snapped back, "I got played, big difference. You all would pull the "We're family" card when you needed cash, but when I came over with flowers and pie, I was greeted by security." Mom piped up, "Because you embarrassed us," she said, her voice rising. I shot back, eyes blazing, "You embarrassed yourselves. I paid off your $58,000 mortgage, and you couldn't even send me a text. You organized an entire Thanksgiving dinner pretending I didn't exist." She gave me a snarky smile. "You always play the victim." I laughed. "No, I was just being a son. You treated me like some investment. And when I stopped being profitable, you slammed the door in my face." Rachel slammed her glass down and said, "You don't get to judge us. You're not a saint just because you make more money." I looked at her and said, "You're right, I'm not a saint, but I'm not your ATM either." Vince tried to loom over me, asking if I thought money made me better than them. I stood up. No, but it sure opened my eyes. Then I dropped a bombshell. I talked to a lawyer. Silence hit the room. Mom blinked. "For what?" I pulled out another envelope. "Remember co-signing on Ben's loan without telling me? That's financial fraud." Ben went pale. "I'm not pressing charges, for now, but that loan's all yours now. I had it reassigned." "You're welcome." Ben opened his mouth, then closed it, and sat back down. Rachel looked like I'd grown horns. "You're being petty." "Nope, just setting some boundaries." Taking a good look around the table for the last time, I said, "This was never about money. It was about respect, and none of you have shown me any." Mom shook her head like I was throwing a tantrum. "You've made your point. Happy now?" I replied, "No, but I will be." Picked up my phone and started canceling payments, disconnecting Apple Pay to Mom's Amazon, removing myself as Ben's backup for his credit card. I smirked, "Happy Thanksgiving." Then I walked out, but this time I didn't leave quietly. As I left that house again, I didn't cry or flinch. Something inside me burned out, and from the ashes came clarity. I was done being the reliable one, done being strong while they drained me dry behind fake smiles. That night, I turned off my phone and poured myself a drink at my Airbnb. Online notifications were blowing up, my story hit over 100,000 shares. People worldwide were messaging me, calling me brave. Therapists were posting about emotional abuse, reporters wanted interviews, but none of it hit me like one comment: "The people saying you're cruel are the ones who thrived on your silence." Reread that one about 10 times because it was so true. The next morning, I flew back to Zurich. As the plane took off, it felt like the weight on my chest lifted too. For the first time in years, I wasn't worrying about how much money I had left to send someone or checking for another family emergency Venmo request. I just stared out the window and exhaled deeply. Glorious, aching silence. No more texts from Mom, no guilt tripping from Rachel, no urgent calls from Ben, and it wasn't because they weren't trying. I blocked them all. The first week back was surreal. I kept expecting to feel guilty, like some invisible force would come creeping in, but it never did. Instead, I found peace. Worked without distraction, actually slept through the night, even took a walk at 2 a.m. just because I could. I booked a weekend retreat in the Alps, nothing fancy, just the kind of thing I always said I didn't have time for. But chaos doesn't go down without a fight. 2 weeks later, Rachel tried to go public, posting about how family shouldn't be about transactions and vaguely hinted at someone exploiting social media. Her friends cheered her on, but the internet wasn't buying it. Screenshots of her old texts leaked, bragging about milking her rich brother like an ATM. Her post vanished within a day. Ben kept his mouth shut online, but I knew he was spiraling when I got a call from a blocked number, his boss. Apparently, Ben put me down as a reference, and someone found the viral thread. "Is all this true?" the guy asked. I neither confirmed nor denied. Ben got canned that same week. Mom, predictably, doubled down. Heard through the grapevine she was telling everyone I'd lost it, turned against the family. Even threw a little dinner at her place. Same table, same turkey, fewer guests. I saw a photo, she looked. Phew, I was totally exhausted, and for once, nobody was putting on any airs. Then something totally unexpected happened. People from my extended family started reaching out, not to criticize me, but to actually say, "Thank you." Someone I barely knew slid into my DMs saying, "I've always admired how you handled things. Now I see how much weight you were carrying." A cousin from Ohio messaged me saying, "Reading your story made me cry. I'm dealing with the same stuff with my parents. You've given me courage." Even my mom's sister, who hadn't talked to her in like 10 years, wrote to me, "Your mom did the same thing to me. I just couldn't walk away like you did." That's when I realized it wasn't me tearing the family apart, I was just showing the cracks that were already there. It was never really about the money. It was about the entitlement, the performance, and how they only seemed to care when there was something in it for them. Without my money, they had nothing holding them together. I was the glue. And when I stepped back, everything started to fall apart. But the real shocker came about 3 weeks later. I was at work when my assistant popped in to say someone downstairs wanted to see me. "He says he's your brother," she said. I froze. "Which one?" She shrugged, just said he looked rough. It turned out to be Ben. He was standing in the lobby, looking like a wreck, hair all messed up, eyes sunken, and he'd lost weight. He just looked at me and said, "I messed up." No excuses, no blaming, just those 3 words. He then told me he lost his job and that Rachel wasn't talking to him. Mom was acting like she was the victim. I just kept staring. "I know I can't take it back," he said, "but I came to tell you something." He showed me his phone, a screenshot of him paying off a loan we co-signed. No help from Mom or Rachel, just him. "I'm fixing what I can," he said. "I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I didn't hug him or cry, but I nodded. That was enough for me. I didn't go back, not for Christmas, not for birthdays. Not even when Mom accidentally texted me a blurry photo of an old family album saying, "Some memories are priceless." I left her on read. And you know what? I didn't feel guilty because for once, I had nothing to explain. I wasn't the bad guy. I was just the one who turned off the tap while everyone else acted like they were entitled to it. I used to think family was all about unconditional love. Now I know some families think it's about unconditional access to your time, your money, your silence. When you take that away, they don't miss you. They miss what you gave them. My mom didn't miss me. She missed getting her bills paid on time. Rachel didn't miss her brother. She missed the perks like free flights and quick Venmo hits. Ben came around eventually because life finally told him no, the way I never did. I still remember the last message Mom sent before I blocked her for good: "You were always the difficult one. Maybe if you just tried harder, we wouldn't be here." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. I tried harder than any of them. I tried so hard I was living 3 lives that weren't mine. And they still called me selfish when I finally chose myself. The twist they'll never admit? They needed me way more than I ever needed them. Now I'm thriving. I sleep, I hike, I eat food that I actually like. I've got a month off planned for next spring, no emergencies to deal with, no bank accounts to refill for someone else's mistakes. People ask if I regret making my story public. Not a chance. Sometimes shame is the only thing that gets through to people who hurt others. They didn't care when I was quietly struggling, but when I stood up and took back control, the world noticed. And they hated that. They didn't lose their golden goose, they lost the version of me that put up with being taken for granted. I didn't burn bridges, I just stopped building them on my own. Next time, they can build their own. Let them be there for someone else.